Be smart, it's your money.
The Undercover Contractor with Matt Tappara.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, today I'm really excited. I have with us Jeff Bremner of J Builders. Now, this is going to be really, really exciting because I think almost anybody listening here has had a remodeling nightmare, right? And if you haven't had one yourself, you probably know someone who has. You know, contractor didn't show up. It wasn't what you wanted. Today, we're going to cover some of the remodeling tips, tricks, ways to avoid scams with someone who's done tons of remodeling in the space. Jeff, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
No problem. So tell the audience a little bit about kind of who you are, what got you to this point.
So I've got over 20 years experience in construction, and I started working in the field, worked my way up. 2009 is when I went out and got my license. Sort of hit the ground running. Right when I got my license, I had a few good sized jobs lined up. I was trying to do everything myself, though. That was probably a mistake, so I was at the job site all day. I'd come home up until 1, 2 a.m. doing change orders, making material lists, and trying to get new work at the same time. So then up at 6 a.m. the next morning on the job site again. So, and ran with my own company for a while. I've had ups and downs, of course, like everyone else. So.
It's hard when you're doing both. And that's, something I remember a lot growing up with my dad in the business, right? Is like, we always talk about in my company, sales and production, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of always have to do a little bit of both, right?
Oh,
It's like you're spending time in production, and then it's like, oh, well, now I got to jump to sales. It's very hard. And I love emphasizing this for homeowners is the contractors that are trying to do stuff right.
Yeah.
I didn't have any business school experience growing up.
Yeah.
I had bricklaying and contracting experience.
Right. Field experience. I was very similar.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I got a surprise for you, Jeff, before we kick off too deep. So, basically, I got a little game here. So you're a contractor. You've been in the business a long time. So little surprise for you. So got a timer on the board, 2 minutes.
Okay.
Got a couple things in front of you. I got a red Solo cup here. 2 pieces of tape. Okay. I got scissors, 4 pencils, and 8 straws. So surprise, surprise, surprise. You never know what you're going to get here at the Undercover Contractor podcast.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is this. We're going to start the countdown in a few seconds here. You're going to have 2 minutes to build the tallest structure that you can. We're not going for pretty. We're going for height.
Just as tall as
exactly.
possible.
I'm going to measure it up. So, in my eyes, you've got a lot of experience. You validated yourself, but we want proof. The proof is in the pudding. You got two small pieces here. So we're going to kick the timer off in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay.
All right, Jeff, have at it, man. I'm excited. Okay, you've got a plan. All right, we're going scissor through the top there. Okay. See this pre-planning. Good. I like this. Yeah. We're throwing this. This is good stuff. Very methodical.
Let's see if this is gonna work.
See, this is the heavy carpentry framing background here. I see.
Oh yeah.
Taping 2 pencils together. Okay. I'll tell you the record when we're done here, the height record, if you beat it. I think you've got a good shot here.
There.
Oh, yeah, this is. All right. So we've got hole in the cup, pencil through the hole, and we've got 2 pencils taped together. Okay. All right. This is good. So we got a hole in the cup, pencil through the hole, and we've taped. And you're cool as a cucucber over there, Jeff. You got no stress, man. You've seen it all on the job site. I could tell.
Oh yeah.
This is nothing. This is.
Did I use all my tape?
I don't know. Let's see. But you got a good strategy here. I like what you're doing. You got pencil through, tape together. Will it stay? Might be done with 30 seconds left. All right. Well, if you're throwing in the towel, let's get a height.
I'll get this a little higher.
Okay, look at that. I like it. All right. You got time if you need it. Oh no. Good strategy. Good strategy.
All
Okay. All right. Let's get the measurement. Any guesses?
Looks to be about 2 feet or so.
2 feet. All right. Let's see here. So I'll tell you where you're at. Okay. You've got 23 and a half. As of now, you are the record holder. I think the highest record so far is 22 inches. So
wow.
Today, good stuff,
All
Jeff.
right.
You earned it. You earned it.
Off to a good start.
Validating his experience through years and years and years of the field. Cool as a cucumber. So that's cool. That was a fun little game. So, I think if we're focusing on remodels, which I find are for homeowners, just it's tough, right? Because how do you know how to hire the right contractor? I mean, there's so many different questions that go through a homeowner's mind, right? And with big companies, you may meet the person selling the job and there's no relationship between the person doing the job. Correct. And then you've got unlicensed contractors. You have contractors that are better at sales. Unfortunately, you have a lot of really great contractors that are good at doing the work and are horrible at selling the project, right? And then so there's all these different variations. So, I mean, what do homeowners need to look out for, right? They're going to set out to do a remodel.
I would say pre-construction meetings are extremely important. Mm-hmm. Of course, you want to meet on site more than once. And I would say going to look at some work they've done as well. And if they have a portfolio of sorts. Social media is a big one. If they have Facebook or Instagram set up, I would say look into that. Experience is the big thing. And you need to, at these pre-construction meetings, if you have a gut feeling about someone where you don't feel comfortable or, the conversation isn't flowing the way you want it to, I would say go with that gut feeling and go with someone else, because it's, that relationship throughout the project has to be strong.
Now, what about, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here because we see it on both sides, and I think this is where things get a little fuzzy, right? Is you got some contractors who, they do great work and they get a lot of word of mouth and they still haven't adopted to the new online world. Yeah. But they got an amazing portfolio. So how do you're a homeowner, right? I'm a homeowner and I'm setting out to, do a kitchen, bathroom. I'm going to do a sizable remodel in my house. What do you see as some of the common pitfalls that we need to avoid?
It's tough because I've seen clients that look for that sort of thing, like social media, and it's a big deal, even a deal breaker with some people, where, this guy doesn't even have a website set up, so for that contractor that's doesn't have the Instagram or Facebook set up and isn't big on social media, I would say they just need to figure out a way to pitch themselves as such and explain that they, we're great in the field, but we don't, and you know what? Some contractors don't need the advertising. What do they say? The word of mouth is the best advertising, Yeah. So I think it depends on the client, as far as what they want and
what builds that confidence as the client. Because another thing I think about, and this is one of the things because I've seen it much like you on both sides of the coin, right? Yeah. You got the beautiful website, the beautiful social media, right? But they can't deliver.
Yeah, there's two. Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's some people that have this great front, and then you start working with them, and you're like
day labor.
Yeah,
I mean, you've seen it like you've seen
ridiculous,
unbelievable, right?
Yeah, and some of people working in the field with them, you feel like they're just meeting them for the first time. And you're like, wait a minute here. I thought you were established. You had this crew of like 10 years. And I would say, again, pre-construction meeting, get to know them. Try to go by a job site that is active. That's where this contractor has guys on site. Walk the job site with the contractor. Try to walk the job site again without the contractor to get a feel for, this is what's going to happen on my site. Yeah. And if, you don't get a good feeling and, if you've got trash everywhere and, the guys aren't respecting the house they're building, that's usually a bad sign. If the people in the field are even bad mouthing the contract, I've heard of this happening, that of course is a red flag, because you want everyone happy on your site. And, it starts with the crew that's there every day.
How important is it in your eyes to have an established team of subcontractors that you work with?
I think it's extremely important to have that history. And, every once in a while you try new guys and, but I think that's very important. Very important.
One thing I've seen, it's common on my side, right? Because we do a lot of direct to homeowner, with the bar of masonry, but we also do, we work under and partner with certain general contractors. Is, some general contractors, they look really good on paper, and then, they've got the website, they've got the insurance, or they walk the walk, right? But then I don't know that. And I want to get your opinion. I feel like there's not enough emphasis on really asking questions around who's going to do the work. Like when you meet with a contractor, there's a big emphasis on this contractor, but the person who's hanging the drywall, placing the concrete, forming, finishing is not the person you're talking to.
Yeah, I would say what I try to do on the bigger projects is when, at the preliminary stage, when I'm bidding the project, I'll come by the house several times for pre-construction meetings. I'll have different people meet me on site, whether it's tile guy, drywall guy, framers, structural concrete. Steel guy is less important for the homeowner, but some of the finishers, bring them on site, show them what's going on. This is what we're doing over here, and and then the client gets to see that working relationship, and they get to see this person. They're not in the dark, and then tile's about to start or drywall's about to start, and this rude crew shows up that doesn't know what they're doing, or what I mean. So again, going back to the pre-construction meetings, extremely important, and bring some of those guys on site for those pre-construction meetings.
One thing I advocate, and it segues right into this. I advocate this in the book, right? Is my book, The Undercover Contractor: How to Not Get Screwed by Your Contractor. Is I advocate that there needs to be more emphasis on really vetting and validating and understanding your subcontractors, like looking at their websites and and looking at their insurance certificates. What is your opinion on that? On really digging into the subcontractors?
Extremely important. When I first started, I didn't do enough digging, and I actually hired a steel sub that was trying to work under someone else's license, and this other contractor had no idea. In the end, it worked out. I immediately went to the homeowner and said, I've got a situation on my hands. So got rid of that guy, contacted the gentleman who this guy was they were friends, but he was totally in the dark. He ended up finishing the job, but could have been a real mess for me. So I would say I learned that one the hard way. You want to do your research, do some digging, and when it comes time to draw up the contract, it's not only important that you as a homeowner have a rock solid contract with the contractor. Make sure the contracts between contractor and whatever, of course he'll have most contractors have an in-house crew for little things, but when you're talking structural steel, most general contractors don't have a crew that does that portion of the job. So just make sure the contractor has a great contract with their steel sub. They've got a great working relationship, and again, check that license, check that insurance. The workers' comp is important. The general liability is important. Things happen, even to the great contractors. It's a tough business. It's not easy.
Yeah, I mean, it's competitive. There's a lot of coordination involved. We see it too, even with, because they're scheduling and things change, and then you've got a good subcontractor crew, but they've got their best guys and they've got their,
you've got
B players and C players.
Absolutely.
And there's so much dynamic, and that's why, for the listeners, the whole point of this is to pull back the curtain a little bit and be like, this is some of the behind the scenes, for the people that get up every day, love this industry like you. I mean, we share a similar story. I mean, I've been doing this, 9 years old, first day on the job. And it's like, when you grow up in this industry and you do it and you love it and you're passionate about it, there's a struggle there. let's talk about, and I'm sure you've seen some of this. I mean, there's some really great contractors, right? They're out there.
Oh yeah.
And then there's some not so great, not so ethical, right? I also feel like there's another side of the coin, right? And that's on the homeowner side. There's some great homeowners, and there's some homeowners who know loopholes in certain things.
Absolutely.
What's your experience with that?
I had a situation probably 4 years ago now where I had let's just say, extremely difficult client. And it was a fire damaged house that it was a historical home too. Fire damaged house, and we were adding a second story to it. And I don't know how she got that second story added because it was a historical home. You're not supposed to do that, but somehow she got it through the city. Mm-hmm. But long story short, took advantage and found little things that I wasn't necessarily doing correct. I trust that, we had a lot of verbal approvals, let's say. I trusted her, trusted that I would get paid. In the end, didn't get paid, lost a lot of money on that job. And because I didn't do everything by the book and verbal approvals and that trust issue, it really ended up hurting me. There were days where I would leave I'd have a crew on site working on framing or whatever. The guys would be at this job site all day. I'd be somewhere else. Next morning, I'd make my stop at that job site. And I had great guys that had my back and productivity was high. Guys, I'm looking around and what'd you do yesterday? And the client came and we were upstairs on the second. She had us take all these windows up here, and we're talking like 20 windows. I go, really? Why didn't you should have called me, right away. And, and she had us holding windows up because she was trying to figure out if she wanted to make some changes and if this window would look good there and over here. And it's just ridiculous. So next morning I call the client. The guys are on site to do A, B, and C. And if you pull them away and you're having them do other things, I can't stick to my schedule that I've ironed out with you. And not only that, I'm losing money. Yeah. I'm still paying these guys and they're not doing what I'm expecting. So if I think framing is going to take 3 weeks and all of a sudden I've got a week of them doing these other things for you, don't get me wrong, I want to help you out. I want to do everything I can for you. But it's going to kill my budget and it's going to kill my schedule. It just went on and on. And she would ask for these little favors, and whenever I'd be off site at another job, I would literally get phone calls all day long. Where are you? When are you coming back? Where are you? When you wanted me on site 24/7. And from the beginning, I explained, hey, throughout the important things, I'm here 100%. I want this to go well, but I can't be here every day, all day. There's going to be times when I pull away. I've got a great team behind me. They're going to take care of you 100%. Don't worry. But
I know what you mean. You touched on a couple of really cool things I want to highlight, right? Yeah. One of them is and we've had this in our company too. It's almost like, we've had instances with our foreman where they're like, where's the site super, right? Where's, who's going to be on the job? And I've literally had the conversation where I'm like, look, they've been doing this for 20 years. Yeah. If I stand over this person, I'm going to insult my foreman. It's literally going to be insulting to them.
Well, and sometimes we can actually complicate the matter because we all go into this deep thought about, oh man, how are we going to frame this? And the concrete has to be they've already got it figured out.
They're working on it. Yeah. And then the other thing you touched on, which I think I want to highlight, is you said by the book, right? You were like, well, I wasn't doing stuff by the book. And what you mean by that, right? And I want to emphasize this is it's such a tough thing, right? Client comes out, they're like, hey, I want to do these changes. The by the book is to stop the work, write a change order, send over the change order
per CSLB
protocol. And when you said earlier, like, I didn't do it by the book, it's I just want to emphasize this for listeners. It's not that he wasn't following building codes. What he's saying, what he's saying, not by the book, is he's saying, I trusted the client to pay me at the end for these verbal things.
And I wanted to keep work
Yes.
going, keep things going
That's-
quick, because it's
Yes.
a battle there, because all of a sudden you want to put a window in this. I have to
Yes.
call the framers. All right, let's stop. Let's get this figured out. Let's get this drawn up. Let's get change order signed. And, that could be a 2-day delay.
And then you got to find a place for your crew, because otherwise your crew is sitting
Exactly.
home, and then it's like, well, do I put them on another job? But that job's a week long, so then I'm going to delay it a week. I mean, these are the things for good ethical contractors that we face. So, what Jeff's highlighting here, and I think this is a phenomenal point, is, you want trust in a couple factors. I think it's important to establish trust between your contractor and your homeowner to be able to do some of these things. But it is a tricky situation. I mean, just as much as homeowners are gun shy because they've been screwed over by a contractor, we got contractors that are gun shy because they're like, on my last project, I put in a window on a handshake and didn't receive a penny for it.
Exactly. And in the beginning, that happened to me multiple. And this particular job I'm talking about, it was a large sum of money.
Yeah.
But I've learned to have that change order ready to go. Get your pricing down. Try to get it going. Get that signature. It's going to save you.
It is tough. And so, I'm a homeowner. I'm looking for a contractor to remodel my kitchen, my bathroom. I've asked some questions. I think we hit on some good stuff, right? Really digging into the subcontractors and who that is. Asking those questions are crucial. I love what you said, go by job sites.
Yeah.
That's something I talk about in the book, right? Is I want to see a picture in your portfolio.
Yeah.
And then I want to drive by and talk to the homeowner.
Absolutely.
How important, I'm going to ask you something because I highlight this in the book too. And it's so important to me, right? Is how many times have you seen a project, right? You've heard stories, or because we're in these circles, right?
Yeah.
You hear information, and clients like you see a house was built.
Yeah.
So I always say there's product and there's process.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So product is what you see at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Process is. Was
Getting
it
to that
6 months behind schedule? Was it 30% over budget?
Yeah.
And did it have to be torn out and redone 3 times? Talk about how we can, as homeowners, prevent issues because I think we look a lot at, homeowners traditionally look a lot at budget.
Yeah.
Right? They look a lot at finishes and how things are going to look.
Yeah.
But there's this, what I find really differentiates contractors is the process, like what you're talking about. I'm gonna hit my schedule. I'm gonna make sure that I'm willing to stick my neck out to make sure I can do that. I've got a great crew. Like, talk about the process, because I think that's important.
By process, you mean from start to finish?
Well, great question. I think process in terms of, let's say you've got 2 houses being built side by side.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
One contractor building one house, one building the other.
Uh-huh.
At the end of a year-long period, both houses are built.
Yeah.
But what you don't know and you can't see from the street looking at them is one house went 3x over budget, took twice as long to build, while the other house was at budget, right, and took half as long to build.
Right.
I don't think homeowners emphasize, like, there's a lot of emphasis on pictures.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Like, look at my portfolio.
Yes.
And I love what you said, and this ties into it. Is if I walk a job site that's actually ongoing, I can start asking questions about the process. Is this project behind schedule? I can ask the guys.
You absolutely want those references. You want to be able to get someone, if not face to face, get someone on the phone and ask those questions. And, best case scenario, walk the job, really look at things in detail, look at the finish, and talk to that homeowner and find out, because they're going to let you know, like, hey, he does great work, but we were $50K over budget and it took 8 months longer than we expected. They're going to let you know, So it's very important.
Yeah. And I think that's what, that's one of the biggest in the remodeling space in particular. That's one of the biggest areas where I see it's like, well, they finally got it done. They had to rip out the cabinets 3 times. They didn't do this work permitted. And you're like,
remodels are tough. Ground up, I would have to say, is a lot easier than remodels. Yeah.
Which I don't know that, there's enough emphasis there. Right. And
I don't think there is. And I think a lot of homeowners assume that the ground up is more difficult because it seems like it's more work. There's more involved. But I would say the remodels are more difficult because until you until you get into the demo, you don't really know what you've got there. I mean, you go on what the engineer and architect tell you, but I can't tell you how many times we've ripped into a remodel and that was supposed to be a beam there. It's drawn as there's no beam. Then you have to present this to the architect, engineer, and client and say, hey, we need to do something here.
So if I'm going to remodel my kitchen bathroom, am I starting with an architect or a contractor, in your opinion? Hiring first.
I would say it's okay to walk the job with a contractor, but what I love on whether it's a remodel or ground up, I love a solid set of plans that I feel there's always changes. Always. I don't think I've ever been on a job where there hasn't been little changes here and there. But some jobs are just ridiculous where the plans don't reflect what you have. And, there's certain things you can't build the way they're drawn up. So preliminary job walks with contractor is important, but I would say architect is just as important and engineer. Because if you have a good set of plans, you can just hit the ground running from day one. You don't have much to worry about. There's not a ton of RFIs where you're constantly asking questions. And again, that affects schedule because stop everything. I need to find out how this connection's made. It's not here,
So I'm looking on a small remodel, maybe starting with the contractor is okay if it's something simple, but the end goal is to have an architect come in there and draw it up, and probably somebody who specializes in remodels, right? Because there's so much fine detail.
Absolutely. Yeah. You want to see it on paper. Your crew needs to be able to see it on paper, and you can't you don't want to design on the fly, let's say, and figure these things out in the field.
One thing I want to touch on before we wrap up, because I think this is really, really important, is, and I'm sure this is a common thing. So you get a set of plans, right? Mm-hmm. Now I call this the ethical dilemma, right? Mm-hmm. For good contractors, we get a set of plans and we look, and in all of your experience, you look at this and you go, these plans are not complete. They're not accounting for something, right? If I rip these walls off, there's going to be mold behind the walls. How can homeowners, what do you have for advice for them to be able to, because there's two types of contractors, right? Yeah. The contractor one is going to take the time to be like, look, this isn't on the plans, but this might happen, this might happen, this might happen.
Could be termite damage, there could be mold, like you said. Yeah, there's all sorts of unknowns.
Or there's the other contractor that looks at it and says, I'm going to try and get the lowest bid to get the job, and I'm going to pop it out of the park.
Big time scam.
So how do I avoid that? How do I avoid that as a homeowner? What questions should I ask? What can I do to help kind of in that regard? Because I know change orders is everybody's worst nightmare.
Yeah. It's tough for a homeowner because they don't have a ton of construction experience. But if a homeowner could think about the basics like termite damage, dry rot, mold, I just ask those questions from the beginning. If we rip into this wall and we find that this whole wall is trash and needs to be reframed because there's termite damage, how are we going to approach that? And how are you going to, the change order, would you add a 15% to labor and materials? How do you go about your change orders?
What are top 5 or 6? Or let's give the homeowners a list. So you said mold, you said termite damage. What are some things they need to be mindful of and asking questions on?
I would say mold, dry rot, termite damage. What are some other surprises?
Structural layout is probably a big one, right? You rip in and it's like there's no
studs are 2 foot on center instead of being 16 on center. Even structural connections, whether there's if there's a beam sitting on top of 2 posts and there's no Simpson ECC or whatever to hold it in place, little things like that.
Non-permitted work is a big one. You rip open, you see the electrical, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is wiring or
really old wiring that I've seen some jobs where half of the house is new plumbing, half is old plumbing, half is like new wiring. And then on this side of the house, there's really old cloth wiring. So
if I were walking with you, if I had you come in, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, I walk through, are you the type of person who brings this up in conversation? Like, would you be like, hey, just so you know, you're ripping open this wall, you might find this? Like, what is your typical, so they have a North Star, something to.
No, absolutely. Like absolutely. You don't know what you're going to encounter. Same goes for when you're ground up and you're starting the structural part of, you know, you never know if you're going to hit groundwater, and that can be a major expense. So, but yeah, I bring those things up, and I would say set something up with the client where, you know, you do all the demo you can do prior to going into framing, you know, the next steps. Then do another job walk with the client, and anything you see, you know, if there's some minor termite damage, point it out and say, you know, we could leave this, you know, but, you know, I advise you to replace it. If something's really bad, of course you're going to replace it, but just walk it with the client, point out all the deficiencies, and prior to the demo even starting, just let it be known, like, hey, we don't know what we're going to find when we open up these walls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you've covered some amazing stuff. I think, you know, if the listeners are taking notes, you've hit on some huge points, right? We said mold, we said dry rot, we said, I did it too, termite damage, you know, non-permitted electrical wiring, things like that. Because what can happen, we've all heard the stories, is we give a nice low bid and then we're going to come in and, you know, the change order should have been, you know, cost plus 10 or 15%, and it's 3x or 5x or even 10x. I mean, it's crazy. You know, they have to make up for so much, you know, that they did in the bid. So, any other big tips? I mean, any powerhouse tips that you think homeowners need in this space? Because it's, you know, among the top consumer complaints. General contractors.
Number one, get to know your contractor. The pre-construction meetings are extremely important. Good connection there between client and contractor. Several meetings, walk the job with the contractor, make sure they get some of their guys on site for those job walks, so you get a feel of their relationship and see how you feel about their guys and whether it's going to be a good working relationship, I would say.
Man, I'm excited. I think Jeff's given us some amazing tips. Truly, I mean, this is for the homeowners, and to distill it all into one big thing. What Jeff is saying, what I'm hearing is, you know, take the time to make the right decision. And I say this, I have my funny saying is it's a square peg in a round hole, right? We rush to find a contractor and then we're literally shaving down the corners to try and fit it. And it's like, if you take the time up front, and I always preach this, to find the right contractor who cares, who's going to treat it like it's your job, who's not going to try and get rich off one change order, and is passionate about this industry. I mean, we're here talking about this.
You know what? Another important point is don't always go don't hire the low baller, because 9 times out of 10 that can hurt you. There's a reason they're low balling, right?
Hard lessons. Yeah. Well, Jeff, I want to thank you and appreciate you for being here and giving us, you know, your years of experience. So appreciate it.
Thank you.